Wake up. Freedom's on the rise.
Welcome everyone to Freedom's Rising, episode number 14. Today is Thursday, June 16th, 2022, and you are participating in the rise of freedom. Yes, that's right. Freedom's on the rise, and that's what we're covering here on the Freedom's Rising podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for sharing, liking, subscribing, and smashing that like button. Today we'll be talking about when it's time and when you decide to take back your health. And taking back your health could be the title of the episode, or the proper human diet and the way to take back your health. Again, this is episode number 14 of the Freedom's Rising series, so we're still young in the series. I'm not sure exactly how many episodes we'll be recording into the Freedom's Rising series, and we're just trying to get a good number of these under my belt. But you'll know me as Tyler Bloyer, the host of the show, and I do other content as well, and I have a website, tylerbloyer.com. You can go to tylerbloyer.com and view the feeds there, and that's what you'll see if you subscribe to an audio feed, like let's say Spotify or one of like your favorite podcast app, Podcast Addict, Fountain, where you can stream sats my way over the Lightning Network. And if you're going to install a podcast app, I am also now, like I just said, able to do podcasting 2.0 features. And one of those that I've set up is being able to accept Lightning payments, streaming Satoshis. I've yet to receive any streaming sats yet, but we did get that infrastructure set up, trying to futurize ourselves at the FreedomsRising.Live website there. And you can find Freedom's Rising specifically on FreedomsRising.Live, along with a 24/7 live stream, where we are 24/7 live streaming Freedom's Rising. And by that, I mean sharing things like the Greater Reset, like the recent Self-Reliance Festival. Things that Cassandra and I create are in there, sort of like ads for our, endeavors that we're working on through Freedom's Rising, as well as different things that I may throw in there that I think are inspiring. I even have some David Goggins, some things that will help people see the bigger picture, clips, things from John, who we heard from yesterday. I hope everyone enjoyed that John Bush speech from the Self-Reliance Festival, and we'll be doing more of that today, sharing a clip from the Self-Reliance Festival more geared towards your health, and that's why we're taking back our health today. And I just wanted to talk about that as we get older and as we age, and I'll be transparent here, 36 years old at this point, and I can see that the next 15 years are a very important time in my life. And so for me personally, I've had issues with sticking to things long term that maybe should have been stuck to, and through discipline or a lack of discipline, didn't carry those projects out. But really, since starting a family and becoming a father, things have changed in a big way, and I do now see myself able to execute and stick to things in a lot more diligently, and in a way that makes me a lot more satisfied and proud to look back on things. And I can see the Freedom's Rising podcast and just continuing on with the content creation that we've been doing here, and building up that steam again, like I've been talking about, and getting in sync with producing the content that we feel like needs to be put out there. And by we, again, I'm talking about the family unit here, and Cassandra and I have both been really working hard on our projects and sticking with it, sticking with things that become difficult, sticking with things that have a big payoff and you have the big vision and you can see where it could become and you could see what you could put into it to grow it into that potential. And it's going to take your diligence, your time and attention, and working on things at times when you might not feel like working on it, and picking that project back up and getting back on the horse and getting over the hurdles that you need to get over. And then, taking massive action and massive action and massive action and getting through those hurdles. And we still have a lot of that to do, but if you can find something worth doing, and if you can find something that you can stick to and work on, and that is going to have a payoff for you, and whether that's a financial payoff or the work we're doing here is trying to make a wave, trying to make wake in the world in the shift of consciousness into helping people and younger people see that there are ways that we can participate to make things better, and that it's always not just doom and gloom and, the shit's hitting the fan, and, like we've talked about here before, like, the Klaus Schwab is coming to eat the bugs with you. Also, he won't be eating them. Only you will be eating the bugs and owning nothing and being very happy. And as we integrate the robots into your brain, you won't even know that you are not eating real food, and that you are in a simulation we call the metaverse. The opportunities are immense, and we are here to shape the universe in our order. That is again, something that isn't the only way of being on this planet. And that's, although they sound like this is exactly, all the stakeholders will have the capital of the humans in hand. Just because they sorry, excuse me. Just because they plan the world in this way, in the vision that they see, that's the way that the new world order is going to be moving forward. That doesn't mean that we need to live that way, right? And there's other options, and finding something. And again, some people, their interests and hobbies and patterns and habits might not have anything to do with what we've been talking about on Freedom's Rising, with working towards, waking people up in the world, with shifting consciousness, with bringing more love, truth, freedom, and prosperity into the world. We understand, and I understand that there's not, that's not just something that everyone's thriving and working towards, but it's at least something that we can start to bring more awareness to and start to bring more attention to in the world, that there are ways of living and being in the world that help to produce those things and to reduce the amount of human suffering by not walking and blindly following into total darkness and slavery of the mind and physically even. So what we're going to be talking about today does relate to that, but let's get into it. I'm going to be reading here from a copy of When You Decide to Take Back Your Health. This is something Cassandra wrote. Cassandra, my wife and partner, who is doing a mini course that she offers for free on her website from AltEats.Life. And you can sign up right there at the top. There's an email sign up. And when you sign up, you'll get access to her Kajabi course. And that Kajabi course is the Alt Eats mini course. And currently we have this article published in there, along with some courses that you can take to get an idea for what, Alt Eats is all about. And there's an Alt Flour course and a Simply Chocolate course, and more things in the works that we'll be publishing to that. And you get, other things like access to her Discord server and being able to get the newsletter that we send out, and a number of other things that you can get by signing up for that. But anyways, this article is posted in the course there, and you can read it when you sign up. But we're going to go ahead today and give a sneak preview of that and read it into the podcast, something that I helped edit and, was the editor on that. So and then we published it together. So we worked on that article together, and I'll be reading When You Decide to Take Back Your Health. And then what we'll be getting into is the speech from Dr. Ken Berry, who spoke at the Self-Reliance Festival over last weekend, June 11th and 12th. His speech was on the 11th, and we were both listening to it and thought that it was pretty good information. And, not everything he says is something that we have to fully agree with. He definitely, uses a lot of big boy language. So if you don't like the cussing and the swearing, then probably just don't even want to listen to the Ken Berry speech. And speaking of that, I was talking about getting this podcast feed on to Apple iTunes just to be able to reach a wider audience. It's not like I'm like a big, supporter of what iTunes or Apple does or the things that they're all about. But the point was just to expand out to the, missing component. Because I know a lot of people have iPhones and they don't install a different podcast app. They use the inherent apps that are on it, and they may not be able to subscribe easily to the podcast through that device if they're on an iPhone. So I'm bringing that up because I think they're more strict about you have to have the proper rating on the podcast, and if you're using copywritten material, and that's why I've always just, kind of strayed away from that, because I want to do and say and be who I want to be and play what I want to play on the show without needing to worry about, is this thing going to get taken down? And then if there are a lot of listeners on that and the feed gets cut off, then, you're just having to deal with this problem. And but we went for it. It only took, 10 minutes to set up, so it wasn't a big deal. But now what I'd like to do, and then at the end of the episode today, it'll cut out with another Funky Fathers song. And that song is Turn Your Blind Eye. And I think it has a good, it syncs on with the episode about health, I think, and taking back your health. Speaking of that, when you decide to take back your health, we'll start into the article here. And again, you can get to the article by going to AltEats.Life, and just sign up for the email sign up, and the course gets opened up to you, and you can get the email. You can get the article that we're reading right now from there. So it says, starting with the article, whether it's because you need to lose weight, want to become more lean, have been feeling sick, experiencing migraines, bloating, fatigue, etc., the list goes on and on. But one of the first things your doctor may or may not tell you is that you'll need to change your diet. And Dr. Ken Berry will be telling us about that today, I'll tell you that. That's me cutting in here. Now back to the article. Here's where the challenge lies. You're likely not going to be able to eat exactly the same as everyone else, and vice versa, because we're all unique butterflies. We cannot all eat the same foods. Think about it. What we can eat and how we react to it depends particularly on the state of our individual gut flora balance, which could depend greatly on the way that you were raised, how you were born, how many antibiotics you've been taking in your life, your vaccinations, and so much more. You can see how this can vary drastically. In my experience, most people are experiencing a reaction from the food they eat. Reactions vary from violently to barely noticeable. One of the most popular ways to figure it out is an elimination diet, which can take a lot of time, effort, and money. Doctors will tell you to try this only after offering you lots of harmful medications. Starting over. Doctors will try to tell you, let me start over again. Doctors will tell you to try this only after offering you lots of harmful medications and running up a huge bill on tests, and they will test forever if they can. Believe me, I have been there my entire life. And that's Cassandra that is the author of this article, right? So when we're talking like that, it's her that was speaking there. And back to the article. Now, here are the things that you will have to face when putting your diet back into your own hands. First things first, you will need to cook. Not become a chef, but you must know everything going into your body. That takes away the ability to go to the restaurant or grab boxed meals from the store. And if you're also responsible for cooking for other people, you will have to accept that you cannot eat the same as everyone around you. You may need to cook separate meals or skip the meal with everyone else. Unfortunately, the latter is my routine, and I usually use that time to get ahead of any household chores. That way, when everyone is finished, cleanup is easy and we get more quality time together in a clean home. Number 2, exercise your free will. The psychological strength it takes to undo however many years of routines and programming we've had is tremendous, but it's not impossible. For example, if you've been eating foods you like 3 times a day, every day of your life, then your mind will have a very hard time letting some of these foods and routines go. Depending on your symptoms, you may be able to enjoy a treat every now and then. I would suggest a treat once a month max. The point is to break the psychological dependence. Read my story on how I lost 140 pounds after being morbidly obese my entire life. Just by retraining my psyche on AltEats.Life, talk about hard. So you can read, this is me cutting in, you can read that in her about, and that is where she's talking about, referencing on the about page on AltEats.Life. Number 3, have a good attitude about your change. Attitude is key. I understand how it is such a bummer to give up things you love, and you're allowed to feel that way. For a minute, it must go from what you can't eat to what you can eat. Remember your goal, whether it's to lose weight, feel better, get rid of migraines, etc. The key is to putting health over pleasure eating. Eye on the ball, sport. Never give up, because it may mean your life one day. I've been there too. Sorry, let me say that again. It may mean your life one day. I've been there too. In my own example, eating became so boring. I'm a chef. I want to enjoy different foods. Now I realize that I can eat as much bacon as I like, and I love steaks with butter also. Pickled eggs are delicious. Attitude, baby. And I just want to repeat again because, that's all that Cassandra can eat. She strictly can only eat a carnivore diet, and there are problems with oxalates and, nightshades and phytotoxins and anti-nutrients and other things with other foods that, when she's having any issues with her gut, can cause her to become extremely inflamed and, bedridden and in a lot of pain and having all kinds of muscle problems. And the only thing that we found that would fix that and at least get her to be able to eat other foods, which is all carnivore diet, was bone broth. And bone broth was able to begin the healing process in the gut. And we're still on a journey to try to figure out, but that's why she was saying with the elimination, and now she can eat as much of these foods as she wants, because that's what the elimination diet led us to, was to discover that the problem was with oxalates, which we were eating a lot of, like in spinach and almonds, and these things are, have tons and tons of these negative things in them that actually harm you when you eat them, called oxalates. And people have different problems and reactions to different foods. Like she was saying here, not everyone's the same. Not everyone's going to have the same problems, but this is part of what she discovered on her journey here. So, number 4, say hello to a new you. It's not about getting back to eating the way you used to. Those days are gone. Those habits are unhealthy for you and will cost you so much once the straw breaks the camel's back and you're in the hospital, or psychologically bills pile up, or your family is paying for your funeral. It pays to take your health seriously, and diet is the foundation from which you stand. It's yours, and only your choice to decide how sturdy your foundation is. For you and everyone around you, that's how to win. Say hello to a new you, stronger body, stronger mind, and a healthy heart to give life a fighting chance. It takes strength. And this is the end of the article here, and I'll start that over. It takes strength. Strength we already have inside of us. It takes self-responsibility to free yourself from harmful habits. It takes growth to realize that the key is in you. It takes an example to show everyone you care about why it is important to stick to your choice. It takes self-love to fight for your life. And it takes a soul to see beyond physical boundaries. We are each spectacular in our own individual ways. Once we take responsibility for ourselves, you will see beyond the expectation that has been used against us and everyone around us. Clear your gut, clear your mind. Alt eating is alt living, and alt living is boundless. Welcome to AltEats.Life. So I agree. I think that last statement there could really be taken and put on a number of things that we do, and maybe just put as taglines in general. I really like that. I'm a little biased, obviously, but I felt like this was a good thing to put into the episode, and I'm going to take that and clip that over into my notes just so I remember that those last parts really hit home. And I think it's true of a lot of things that we need to take heart, and what we were talking about earlier, that when you start to stick to things and create that vision and then put in the work, it really does pay off. And that has to do with health, but it also has to do with various aspects in our lives: our financial health, our mental health, the health of our family, the health of our environment, and the state of our community, the state of the people around us, the mental health. That we can't control necessarily everything, but we can take back control. And if we haven't been in control of certain aspects like our eating habits, we can become more powerful and free by getting back in control, taking back responsibility for these things, and working towards a goal that is going to bring a lot more, prosperity and happiness in our life, to be able to continue on to work on the things that we need to be doing, to make it work for us and our family, and then, the wider community as well, and really be able to be in a position to make change in the world. And if we're not healthy, we're definitely not going to be able to sit down and put in the work that is necessary to work on projects of freedom, work on more freedom in your own life. That's another big aspect of becoming, an enslaved robot that just gets controlled by your CBDC, universal basic income, sit on your ass, not have to work, and not really care about anything, and die obese and early of all the unhealthy foods that food stamps are basically not that there's anything wrong when people need food stamps. I'm just saying, when they are able to completely control what you purchase through all these mechanisms that we're talking about, then you're more likely to just be a zombie slave, And so obviously if we can't, if we're not healthy, that's a big aspect. And there are people out there with illnesses and things that aren't their fault necessarily, and also are just unfortunate. And we're not necessarily talking about those people. We're talking about the vast majority that have control and power over their diet, and through their unconscious, thinking, or kind of entrained robot thinking, they're really just going through and grabbing the things that are available and putting this unhealthy garbage into their bodies. And that is actually something you have total control over. You have 100% control over what you actually put into your body. As of now, anyway. They haven't hooked us up to the, self-feeding tubes in the metaverse yet. And so as of now, when you go and you buy your groceries, and you, like this article was saying, are able to cook for yourself, those are big steps into deciding what's going to go in. And then, we'll hear from Dr. Ken Berry today about what kind of foods we should put in there. And he's going to go through and tell us what not to eat from his experience as a doctor and treating patients. And then what to eat, what he, from his experience and research and understanding, feels like we should be focusing on eating. So on his website, it says, "Meet Dr. Berry, board-certified family physician. Hi, I'm Dr. Ken Berry. I practice medicine in a rural town in Tennessee, in the U.S. For over a decade as a family physician, I have battled the epidemic of obesity, insulin resistance, and type 2 diabetes, one patient at a time. Now I'm ready to take this battle to a larger level. Through my writing and videos, I am waging all-out war against obesity and type 2 diabetes. And then we'll go to the About page on his website, and this stuff will be in the notes. I am a fellow in the American Academy of Family Physicians. I have been practicing family medicine in rural Tennessee for over a decade and have seen over 20,000 patients in my career so far. I have seen so much suffering and heartache, all because of the unnecessary complications of disease caused by our own modern diet. Well, I've had enough. It's time to do something to stop this slow suffering from these preventable epidemics. No big medical words here, just plain talk you can use to stay healthy and happy. If you like it limp-wristed and sugar-coated, then you probably should look somewhere else. And we'll hear that today in the speech, and I'm going to get into it now. And again, this was The Proper Human Diet by Dr. Ken Berry at the Self-Reliance Festival, June 11th, 2022. And then we'll exit the episode with Turn Your Blind Eye by the Funky Fathers. You've been participating in Freedom's Rising. We want to thank you for listening today, and please come back tomorrow. We'll have another episode for you, and check it out. Check out the whole series, and you can find my work at tylerbloyer.com and FreedomsRising.Live and the OneGreatWorkNetwork.com. We'll talk to you later. Enjoy Dr. Ken Berry.
So they're going to go try to find the illustrious Dr. Ken Berry. I want to tell you guys how I met this guy. So one day I get an email from somebody. This is before he was on like the cover of Woman's Day and shit like that, right? Like he was still nobody. He's like, I used to be this really fat jerk doctor, and I used to drive around in my car, my expensive car, like doctors do. And I used to listen to you. And I'd sit there and go, this guy thinks he knows a bunch of stuff. And he said, but it was about that same time he's out talking to his patients. And he'd be like, guys, you need to maybe lose a little bit of weight, get a little healthier, do a little exercise, And he wasn't quite the tall drink of water he is now. And they looked kind of at his stomach like, really? And he went down this journey. And I'll tell you what I think is the most incredible part of this journey is he actually became a doctor. Now, he was already a doctor, as in he had an MD after his name, as he went to school, and he's a lot smarter than me because I would have never got through medical school, I promise you that. He'd already got the credential. He'd already been through the residency and the internship and all that crap. So he was a doctor, but he wasn't a doctor the way the word originally was used. We think of doctors today as being this homogenous thing. A doctor's somebody, when you're sick, you go to them, they make you better, they give you a drug. Or if you're really bad off, they cut you open, they take you apart, they do things to you. The original concept of a doctor, the word really meant teacher. A doctor was a person that you went to learn how to take care of yourself. A doctor was a person that said, patient, heal thyself, and then guided you through that process. The person that did active things to you, that gave you a substance, or cut you open, or set a bone, all of those disciplines were referred to as a surgeon. And the doctor was a teacher. And when I met Ken, I realized I was meeting someone who had been through modern medical training and all the good things that do come with it, because neither one of us will completely put it all down. But he'd actually made that transition by talking to people and by seeing the harm that people were doing to themselves and the harm that advice that was given from the establishment was doing to people. I learned things from Ken, like there's more new dialysis clinics in major cities now per quarter than there are like third-tier fast food restaurants. Think about that. And I'm like, bullshit. So I drove down to Fort Worth. I'm like, dialysis clinic. Holy shit. Now, why do we have that? He's going to tell you. He's going to tell you what to do about it. Because it's my good pleasure right now to introduce one of my best friends in the world, even though he doesn't ever come out and hang out no more. And a really good dude, Dr. Ken Berry.
Not in front of everybody.
Why not?
Hello.
Hello.
Hey. There we go. All right. Thank you so much for having me, Nicole and John and Amanda. Everybody wish Amanda a happy birthday today. Yeah, every time she walks by, I want you to she needs a birthday spanking. So, how many of you guys under this tent or standing just outside of it have been listening to Jack Spirko since he was in the Jetta? Good. That's an inside joke. If you don't know what that means, ask Jack. He'll tell you. So I've, for all of my adult life, I've always been interested in being prepared. And I don't think that's a tinfoil hat thought process. I think that makes good sense, right? If you're about to go on a 20-hour road trip, should you fill the gas tank up before you leave? Well, yeah, duh. That'd be stupid to leave on an empty tank. You're not prepared. And so then I'm also a doctor, and there's a level of preparedness you can have with your health or a complete and utter lack of preparedness you can have with your health. And that's what I really want to talk about today. I want to take my experience as a doctor and a healthcare provider and an amateur nutritionist now and an amateur paleoanthropologist now, and I want to kind of congeal that down into nuggets you can take back home and start to implement immediately, okay? Now, let me give you an example of a guy. We're going to call this guy Rufus. Anybody named Rufus? I'll change it if you need me to. Okay, Rufus is a prepper. He thinks he's prepared. In his basement, he has got 9,000 pounds of MREs. Okay, he's got vacuum-packed 55-gallon drums of beans and rice and beans. Okay, he's got all the stuff. But Rufus also, he's 6 foot tall, but he weighs 315 pounds. Rufus is also a type 2 diabetic. He has fatty liver. He has high blood pressure. He has chronic fatigue. He has muscle wasting. He has this huge gut. Here in the South, we call that Dunlap. Do you know what that means? Okay, all right, yeah. So Rufus takes 14 different medicines a day. He injects insulin every night. Now, my question to you is Rufus prepared? To die or get robbed or get eaten? Yeah, Rufus is prepared. But is Rufus truly prepared to take care of and defend his family? Oh, I forgot he's got 45 different guns and 18,000 rounds of ammo. Is Rufus prepared? Rufus is about as fragile as you can possibly be. Okay? So let's talk about Rufus in this talk and the difference between starvation and optimization. We'll talk about what the human body actually needs. We'll talk about where that's found, and then I'd love to take some questions at the end because I know for a few of you this is gonna bump up pretty hard against your paradigm. And it might piss a few of you guys off, and I'm sorry if that happens. The first time me and Jack talked, I pissed him off a little bit. I challenged him. I said, hey, I'll bet you $1,000. You can't eat beef, butter, bacon, and eggs for 90 days and you gain weight. Bet me. And we wound up not making the bet. And I think he did try it, and he lost weight. He ate as much as he wanted, and he lost weight. And so I wish I'd bet him. So there's certain things that the human body needs. We need amino acids, which make up proteins. Okay, this is not going to be biochemistry. Don't worry. We need fatty acids, which make up hundreds of things in the human body and also make your sex hormones. Anybody interested in maybe raising your testosterone a little? Pay attention. Okay, It also contains vitamins, and we need vitamins and we need minerals. That's it. That's all you need to be an optimal, vigorous, vibrant. What did G. Gordon Liddy used to say? Virile, vigorous, and potent. That's all you need is those four things in the right percentages and the right ratios. Okay. And so those things are called essential in nutrition research, which means that, number one, you cannot make them in your body, because some things we can make, right? You cannot make them, and you must eat them. That's how you get them, is through your diet. If you do not eat them, you will get sick, you will suffer, and you will eventually die or end up like Rufus. Okay? Now, there's these two entities that I'm going to talk about a little bit. One's called Big Pharma, and the other's called Big Food. Okay? Now, I am not a conspiracy theorist. I do not believe these guys get together at, where's the place Alec Jones broke into? Bohemian Grove. I don't think they get together at Bohemian Grove and figure out how they're going to pick your pocket and make you fat and make you sick and then kill you. I don't think that happens. But I do think they meet at Bohemian Grove and they talk about how we're going to increase our profit margin by 10%. How can we 10x our earnings? 100% they talk about all that. But then they also have their bean counters and their attorneys saying, well, now you can't do that, you'll get sued if you go too far, right? And so there's this other concept that I want you to understand. Slow poison versus fast poison, okay? So if I make a food and put it on the Walmart shelves that's got strychnine in it, or ricin or antifreeze, I'm going to get sued within days. That'd be a bad business model, right? But what if I could take a seemingly real food and I could replace the actual healthy oil in it with an unhealthy oil? And in the process, I'm going to increase my profits 20%. And that unhealthy oil is not really going to harm anybody. It's not going to kill anybody overnight. It's going to take a decade or two or three before the results of that really start to show. The bean counters go, yeah, you're saving money. Boom. The attorneys go, yeah, you're not going to get sued. Who the hell would be like, oh, you've been poisoning me for 30 years. A judge is going to be like, shut the fuck up. That don't even make no sense. Poison is fast, right? But I propose to you that there are slow poisons in our modern food supply that don't kill you overnight. And their intention for being there is not the Bohemian Grove intention that we hear from people. It's the bean counter. That's who said, let's get rid of the beef tallow and let's put canola oil in there. Save a ton of money. Makes it more shelf stable. Yes. They turned over to the attorneys and said, yeah, canola's never killed anybody overnight. 100%, do it. That's what's going on. And that's the only conspiracy that's going on is corporations have a fiduciary duty to their board of directors and their shareholders to increase profits. That's it. Okay? And so they're going to replace all of the good ingredients that come in real food, all of these things. They're going to replace those with things that may have some of that in there. They may even fortify it with vitamins and minerals that are made in a chemical factory, right? So there's another profit model. Because if you try to take real food, it's my contention that it's impossible to scale that up. It cannot be done, and that's part of the beauty of a proper human diet. That's why I preach this, and that's why I love these events. Because you guys need to be growing your own food or being good friends with a neighbor who does. Because that's where real food comes from. You cannot take a ribeye and make it have a shelf life of 2 years. Can't do that, right? Without a deep freezer and all the electric bills and all the parts. You just can't. You can't somehow make that, put it in a plastic wrap and put it on a store shelf for 2 years. That don't work. And it's my contention you can't do that with any real food. I've yet to have anybody argue with me about that. Well, they'll start, but then they soon walk away disgruntled because I just don't think that's possible. I'm happy if you prove me wrong. Canning is about as close as it gets. Canning and freezing. You can preserve real food and then enjoy it later with still most of the nutrition intact. Okay? Now, let's get back to Rufus. Rufus is lazy. He loves his recliner and his couch and his TV and his kitchen pantry. He does not want to mess with growing quail in his garage. He didn't want to mess with having chickens in the backyard or having sheep in the pasture or cattle. He didn't want to mess with that. He wants his food ready to eat. He's just going to sit down and eat. Rufus eats 3 times a day with snacks in between because that's what his doctor told him. His diabetes specialist told him to do that, literally. Now, is that helping Big Food that he eats 3 meals a day with snacks in between? Yep. Is it helping Big Pharma? Yep. Huh. So why is his doctor, spoiler alert, I used to be that doctor back in 2003, 2004. I was the guy telling Rufus to eat 3 meals a day with snacks in between. I was an idiot. I was ignorant of proper human nutrition and proper human health and a proper human diet. So Rufus is following his doctor's advice. Do you guys see the insidious evil of this whole situation? People think, oh, well, you know, the devil's just going to come to you and tempt you. It's just going to be blatant. Like, here's $1 million, go kill that guy. I mean, if there is a devil, he's way the hell smarter than that. The devil, if he exists, he's in Big Pharma and Big Food. And in that doctor's heart, even though the doctor may be trying to do the best he knows how to do, that's where the devil's really active, is people with good intentions, right? So Big Food's trying to cut their costs and increase their profits. Big Pharma's doing the same thing. And the doctor is just doing the things he or she was taught by the medical school and by the continuing medical education that's sponsored by Wait a minute now. So another big thing I talk about a lot is this quaint idea of human nature. We are all humans. If you found a wallet full of money on the ground, it would depend on multiple factors as to what you would do with that wallet. Now, if you're in a good position in life, you would immediately find the driver's license and you would try to track that person down. But if you were broke as a joke and your kids were home hungry, you would steal that damn wallet. You know how I know? Because I've done that before. I was that guy. I was 18, 19, had a kid. I didn't have any birthday presents. Broke as a joke, behind on everything. I took that wallet. I took it. Okay? Now, if I found that wallet, I would track that person down. Everything in your life is situational. And if you say it's not, good luck to you. We probably can't be friends. Human nature is what it is. Humans tend to do certain things in certain situations. And so if you're on the board of directors of Kraft Heinz, you think a certain way. And I'll just tell you, they don't think like you guys think at all. Okay, if we've got any financial advisors here, they'll tell you 100% their goals are completely removed from your goals. They don't think like you. If you're a upper middle management guy at Pfizer or Merck or Moderna, you don't think like regular folks. You've got a completely different set of goals. You've got different directives. They're human, we think, but they have different goals. And I saw this going from being a factory worker when I was 18 to being a doctor when I was in my 30s. And I talked about this before with Nisha, my wife. It's so weird how at different places in your life, you literally think about things completely differently, even though you're the same person. So you have to understand these middle management guys at Pfizer and Merck, they're not evil. They're not like, that's not. No, they're just regular dudes and chicks just like you. The board of directors at Kraft Heinz, at Moderna, at Nestle, they're humans. They're just like you. They put their pants on one leg at a time, but they just have different goals and different motivations. And so you got to think about this with human nature in the back of your mind always, okay? How far does this thing reach? Okay. So now back to Rufus. Rufus has no idea. He's not a nutritionist. He's not a doctor. Oh, one more. So the doctor. The doctor's not evil. The doctor's just trying to pay the bills. See as many patients a day as I can, right? keep up with my CME when I have some spare time. So does that really ever give the doctor a spare minute to just stop and think? To stop and do some research? Not really. Does it encourage a good camaraderie and conversational skill with the doctor? Or is the doctor looking for an exit with every sentence and every sentence phrase? Doctors are not assholes. Well, some are. 100%. Some are assholes. But they're not. They don't mean to be. They're just driven by what their set of principles are. Does that make sense? So you got to look at every human. They're just doing the best they can. So don't ascribe to conspiracy or evil what could just be ascribed to being lazy or being rushed or being underslept or being underfed. All those things are probably what's going on. It's very, very seldom the conspiracy. Okay? Now, back to Rufus. How could Rufus become more prepared? Because all you guys want to be solid. You want to be resilient. You want to be anti-fragile. So is type 2 diabetes, that's what Rufus has, is that completely reversible? Yes. Everybody say yes. Yes. Does anybody disagree with me? Raise your hand. And we'll go at it right here. Is hypertension either 100% reversible or 90% reversible in every single person unless they have a genetic defect or an anatomical defect? Yes. Is fatty liver 100% reversible? So what's the path for Rufus? What does Rufus need to do to actually become prepared? Run. Now, this is a very common thing. I propose to you that Rufus does not have to run or do a single setup. He'd probably die, that's right, or twist a knee or sprain an ankle. Then he'd be laid up on the couch, and he would be justified laying on the damn couch because your ass made him twist his knee. He's 315 pounds, and she's like, go run, you lazy ass. Right? Many doctors are that way, and they give Rufus, they tell Rufus the following: you need to move more and eat less. This is monstrous advice. If any doctor's ever told you that, you probably should be looking for a new doctor or trying to change your doctor's mind, as mine was changed a decade ago. Most doctors will say, well, it's easy to lose weight. You just burn more than you eat. Eat less, move more. Get it? Get it? Now, does big food, do they love it when people say eat less, move more? Yeah, honey, yes. They love it because whose fault does it make it that you're fat? Your lazy ass. That's whose fault it is. You glutton? Lay around on the couch and eat Cheetos. No wonder. It's not Kraft Heinz. Not my fault. I didn't make you eat those Pringles. I didn't make you eat that whole box of honey buns. Did I? Whose fault is it? It's your damn fault. Now go to the store and buy some more food. Does Big Pharma love it when a healthcare provider tells somebody to move more and eat less? 100%, because they know that shit don't work. They know it doesn't work. There's copious amounts of research that shows that although exercise is good for you in hundreds of ways, 100% it is. It is. You're right. Ultimately, Rufus does need to do some running, just not today. Okay? But it is a terrible method of weight loss. Proven many, many times over. You're not going to lose any meaningful amount of weight by joining the gym. All you're going to do is waste some money, get frustrated, and then wind up going home and looking in the mirror and say, you're a sack of shit. I'm going to go lay on the couch and eat some Cheetos. 100%. That's exactly what's going on here. So we got to come up with new advice. So first of all, I want you to understand if you're overweight, obese, or severely obese, if you have type 2 diabetes, fatty liver, hypertension, chronic joint or back pain, any of these things, you can reverse that. You can meaningfully improve that. The answer is not in the gym. The answer is in the kitchen. Okay? You're going to stop eating a certain set of things, and you're going to start eating another set of things, being real food. Okay? You're going to stop trusting the big corporations who show you these beautiful, meaningful commercials that touch your heart. You know, they hire people to literally make the commercials, right? Who are psychologists and who are human behavioral specialists. And they know exactly what to do. Do you think there's a reason on the pharmaceutical commercials when they're saying, let's call it Shitera, that's the name of the drug. They show this couple who are looking at each other lovingly and holding hands and walking in the sunset as they say, Shitera has been known to cause sudden death and ulcers and amputations and blah, 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 blah. Because they know that your animal brain is looking at this beautiful picture. They're distracting you from all the dastardly shit that Shitera will do to you or could do to you. Does that make sense? These are professionals. These are people with PhDs. These are people making $250,000 a year to distract you so that you will wind up buying their product, even though they literally told you, Shitera will kill your ass. They said it. It's in the record. If you try to take them to court, they'll be like, well, Your Honor, we made it very clear that Shitera will kill your ass. We said it in the commercial. And you'd be like, yeah, they did. They said it. I should have known. Your wife's in court going, yeah, but he was looking at the picture. That's not going to float, right? They know this. They've been doing this for hundreds of years. Corporations have been around. So what is Rufus going to remove? And what's he going to add? Suggestions. Yes, sir. What should Rufus subtract from his diet?
Any of the processed food.
Highly processed food. I like that. I like how you're thinking. But why? Why highly processed food? Is there some dastardly magic in the processing? Or is it the ingredients? My friend here says sodium. Get rid of the sodium. So if you eat a lot of salt, it makes you gain weight. Huh? Is there a single research study on the face of the planet that shows that eating salt makes you gain fat? None. Does every mammal on the earth, you're a mammal, by the way, does every mammal on the earth need salt routinely for optimal function? Is salt bad for you? How many deer hunters do we have? What do you not put out in the woods to attract deer? Because that's baiting in Tennessee. That's against the law. You never put a salt block out there because deer are too health conscious. They're not falling for that shit. They're on a low sodium diet. In Texas, right, yeah. In Texas, you can literally pour out 100 pounds of grain in your front yard and then sit there on the grain with the rifle. Not in Tennessee. You'll go to jail for that. We actually are sportsmen here in Tennessee. We want to give them a fair chance. Okay, so maybe not salt. What else is in the highly processed food that Rufus should stop eating and never eat again? Sugar! Boom! Are there any essential sugars? You remember what essential means? Are there any essential sugars? Are there anything? What if I locked Rufus in my barn and never gave him sugar for the rest of his life? Would he develop any deficiency? Would Rufus actually get healthier? Huh, okay. What else is in that highly processed food? What? High fructose corn syrup. Another way to be sugar. Okay. Now, do you know what are the products you can buy at Walmart? Everybody knows what Walmart is, right? This is a local. Okay. Because when I talk to a global audience, they're like, Walmart? What is Walmart? I don't know. Right? They don't know what that is. Okay. So Walmart. What products have the highest concentration of fructose that you can buy at Walmart? Soda. She says soda. What do you say? Soda? Ketchup? What? This lousy bastard right here said fruit juice. No, fruit juice is healthy. It's natural. So you're telling me that apple juice and grape juice actually have more fructose than high fructose corn syrup? Is that what you're telling me? Say yes. Say yes. What the? Huh. So I love it. Sugar. Sugar's gone. High fructose corn syrup, just another form of sugar. Now, we love to demonize high fructose corn syrup because that's what Coke and Pepsi use. But honey is pure fructose. Agave nectar, pure fructose. Way more fructose than high fructose corn syrup. Oh, okay. So let's talk about process. So what's the difference between a fructose molecule that's from honey or agave and the fructose molecule that's in Coca-Cola? They're exactly the same molecule. And so what I'm trying to do is dispel bullshit myths for you guys, because a lot of people are like, no. The sugar in Coke and Pepsi, that's the devil. But my honey, that is natural. It's non-GMO. It's organic, and it's Manuka. It costs $50 an ounce. How can that shit not be good for me? You do use less, probably, except me. If there's honey in my house, I'm going to eat the whole damn jar. That's what's going to happen. I can just tell you, I'm a sugar addict. That's what will happen. There is no healthy sugar on the planet, period. The end. Now, remember I said earlier we were going to talk about starvation versus optimization, right? Now, if Rufus really is in a shit hit the fan situation, and he's literally starving, he's losing 5 pounds a day because he hasn't eaten in 7 days. At some point, should Rufus drink the Coke? 100% yes, because his only alternative is death. Should he eat the sugar? 100% yes. He won't die. He won't starve to death. But if what Rufus is trying to do is optimize his health, there's a whole different set of rules for that, okay? Now, back to the highly processed food. What else is in there? Sodium nitrate. All right, that's what they cure bacon with, Jack. That shit will kill you. Wait a minute. What food in the grocery store has the highest nitrate concentration? What? She said deli meat, Jack. What do you mean kale? What the hell? Kale is good for you. It's a superfood. Oh, what about celery juice? Does it have more nitrates than bacon? What about beet greens? What about lots of the superfood greens? Are they higher in nitrate content than bacon? Yeah. Go eat a bunch of raw Swiss chard or rhubarb. Very high. Go try that and see how that works for you. So, nitrates are actually, there's 2 of the big pharma. Remember, they don't do anything unless they're going to make money. There's 2 research studies ongoing right now that they're actually using nitrate. They're trying to get an FDA approval for a pill to lower blood pressure, because nitrate in the human body changes into something called nitric oxide. You ever heard of that? You also make it when you go out in the sun. It lowers your blood pressure. Nitrate's actually good for you. I know what the World Health Organization said. I know. Bacon's going to cause cancer, but see, the problem is when you look at the research and then you look at what humans have been doing for thousands of years, that turns out that's bullshit. Okay, so it's not the nitrate. It's not the salt. What else is it? What's in highly processed food? What are the same 3 ingredients? What are the 3 ingredients that are in a pizza crust, a jelly donut, whole wheat bread? I'm talking about stone ground, non-GMO whole wheat bread right here with seeds on the top. Or a jelly donut. What 3 ingredients do they all contain? Sugar's one of them. What else? Grains, flour, grains, wheat. Is wheat an optimization food or is it a starvation food? 100%. If Rufus is starving to death, he now weighs 97 pounds. Should Rufus eat the whole wheat bread with the grains on the top? 100%. It's a starvation food, and then that's what we've used it for our entire existence on this planet. Something happened about 12 or 13,000 years ago. The anthropologists and the geologists aren't sure if it was a huge volcanic eruption, if it was a meteor, a comet, a conglomeration of those, but something over the course of 100, 200 years wiped out all the megafauna. 50,000 years ago, right here in Tennessee, there would have been huge fatty horses running around. You're like, no, the Spaniards brought the horses. No, the Spaniards brought the horses back. There were huge horses here. There were camels, there were mastodons, there were mammoths, there were bison, there were buffalo, two different things. Don't get that wrong or somebody will yell at you. There were armadillos the size of Volkswagens running around right here in addition to the dinosaurs, okay? And if you're a young earth creationist, God bless your heart. I was raised strict, conservative, Church of Christ. I get it, but it's just wrong. I'm sorry, okay? I still love you, but no, it's clearly not right. I don't think that being a Christian and believing in evolution are mutually exclusive, okay? And if you currently believe that's true, you probably ought to do a little more thinking and a little more reading, and I think you'll come join us later, and that's okay. Still love you. So sugar and grains, 100%, but there's a third ingredient that you can make a pizza crust, a jelly donut, whole wheat, non-GMO bread with seeds on the top. Yeast is you do have to have yeast for the bread to rise. Is there any essential nutrition in yeast? Brewer's yeast, any yeast on the planet that you need, that if you never ate yeast again, you would develop it? No, there's none. Okay, forget all that's horse shit. Somebody trying to sell you some brewer's yeast. Okay, but there's another ingredient that's huge. What fat? So fat. Okay, I agree with that, but what kind of fat's in there? Polyunsaturated. We got a scientist in our midst. Okay, so vegetable seed oils. This pizza crust and all these other things are going to have either canola, soybean oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, peanut oil, walnut oil. Oh my God, sesame oil. I get in huge fights about that. That's healthy, by God, because my grandmother told me so. All of these plant oils are manufactured in a chemical factory using chemicals and pressure and heat. You cannot just get a bunch of sesame seeds or a bunch of soybeans and stomp on them and get oil out. It doesn't work that way. There's 3 oils that come from plants, 4 you can do that with. Palm oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, olive oil. You can actually literally stomp on those and get oil out. So they're much less unnatural. Does that make sense? So think about that for a moment. You can make a jelly donut out of sugar, grains, and vegetable seed oils, or a pizza crust, or a tortilla wrap, or a loaf of whole wheat bread. So all the variety in the supermarket that you think you can't do without, is it really variety? Or is it just different iterations of the same damn 3 worthless, inflammatory, high carbohydrate, junk products? So I want you to, next time you're in the grocery, I want you to just look around. What Dr. Berry, smart ass, thinks he knows it all. What all's made with grains, sugar, and seed oils? I want to see. Go to the cereal aisle. Every single damn box on the aisle. That's the 3 ingredients. Without exception. The entire pasta aisle. Same 3 ingredients without exception. Now, some will say spinach pasta and it'll be green. But if you flip it over and do what every grown-ass human in the world ought to do before they buy something with an ingredient list that they're about to put in their mouth or the mouths of their babies, what should you do? Read the ingredients. you're going to see that spinach is the last ingredient on the list. What's the first one going to be? Durum wheat. So spinach pasta? Don't be a fucking moron. You think they really made pasta out of spinach? No, it's wheat. Okay? What other aisles? Now you're like, oh shit, what? So there's a reason that you've heard people maybe talk about the outer wall diet. Real food is in the produce section, the meat section, the dairy section. That's real food. And it's all on the outer wall. Why is it set up? Beer's on there too, that's right. And we can talk about that. Why do grocery stores do that? Are they doing that to help you buy real food? No, research has shown that people tend to spend more money in the center of the store. Now, they make the highest markup on vegetable oils, grains, and sugar. That's because literally those are all subsidized, aren't they, by the federal government? Huh. It's odd, right? Why would the federal government subsidize stuff that Dr. Berry says is shit? I don't know. Maybe ask your congressman. They do that to make more money because they know that's where the majority of people, you just wander to the middle of anything, just like a cow wanders to the middle of the pasture. We do that, and that's where they put the highest markup stuff. But they know most people also want to get some actual real food, so they put it there in case you want it. Okay? So back to Rufus. So Rufus now, Dr. Berry has grabbed him and slapped him and said, Rufus, stop eating the sugar, stop all grains, and stop all vegetable seed oils. Never eat them again. And I scared Rufus because I was armed. And I put my hand on my hip and I said, Rufus, if I catch you eating sugar, grains, or vegetable seed oils again, I'll be back, Rufus. I will be back. And Rufus took me seriously. And now Rufus is like, well, shit, okay. So he goes to his pantry and he literally throws away every single thing in his pantry except for that one can of green beans that's been there since 1972. Everything in his pantry is made of at least one of those, right? He goes to the fridge and throws away half the stuff in there because it's got at least one of those in it. What's Rufus now? He's got to go to the grocery because he got no food. What's he going to buy? So we're going to go in order from the most nutrient-dense, healthiest food he could possibly buy, and we're going to go down from there. So what's the most nutrient-dense superfood that has more vitamins, more minerals, more amino acids, more fatty acids than any other food in the store? What is it? Who's got? She said grass-fed beef. You don't mess it up. Come on, somebody say kale. Come at me with kale. You want to say it, don't you? What do you say? Avocado. Not bad, but not nearly at the top. But pretty darn good. Yeah. Eggs. I like where you're thinking. Somebody said beef liver. Who eats beef liver? That's the face. I always get that. One person's like, what the fuck? I love it. A man after my own heart. So if you took 100 grams of beef liver and compared it to 100 grams of avocado, and then I know somebody thought kale, and 100 grams of kale and 100 grams of blueberries, we just put them out and we sent them to the lab and they did the full fatty acid, amino acid, vitamin, and mineral breakdown. Which one is going to blow all the other ones? I mean, out of the water, not even close. You'd have to eat 7 pounds of kale to get the nutrition in 2 ounces of beef liver. Okay? This is the kind of information we don't get. There used to be home ec in high school. There used to be, people actually talked about real food, and now everybody just wants to talk about, have you seen that new flavor of Mountain Dew? It's called Blackberry Madness. I can't wait to try it. Right? It's like we've all become grown-up 12-year-olds. Did you know they've got mac and cheese now in the shape of a little butt? It's got the little crack. It's just like, what? Grow the fuck up. The vast majority of people in modern society, Pretty close to 50% of people under this tent have at least some degree of metabolic syndrome. The criteria for that: high blood pressure, waist circumference bigger than it should be, high triglycerides, high blood sugar. I'm not going to ask for a show of hands. How many people don't have high blood pressure, diabetes or type 2 diabetes, fatty liver, or are overweight? Raise your hand. Okay, that's not the majority, folks. Is this tent prepared, truly prepared for what might come up the road? Think about that. Think about that long and hard. And you can argue with me and call me an asshole all day. That's fine. I'll still love you because I'm a doctor. I've been putting up with that for over 2 decades. People saying I'm wrong. But go home and think about it. That's what I want you to do. I want you to go home and think. What would happen if the pharmacy said, dude, the truck ain't come. I don't know when it's going to come. I don't know what to tell you. If you're on 3 or more prescription medications right now, you are about as fragile as a human being can be. Okay? You are like a blown glass globe that has a 1 millimeter thick wall that a blind drunk man is walking through this tent carrying. That's about how fragile you are. And I'm not kidding. Okay? I'm not playing on this. I'm dead serious. If that offends you, good. Good. I hope it pisses you off thoroughly, because that'll make you think about it when you get home. If you're obese, severely obese, if you have type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, if you have metabolic syndrome, high blood pressure, fatty liver, if you have any of these conditions, you're as fragile as you can be. You ain't prepared. You're definitely not resilient, and you ain't even a first cousin twice removed to anti-fragile. And I know that that's your goal, is to be that. And as long as you focus all your attention on your MREs in the basement and how many rounds of ammo you got, you feel like you are prepared. But I can tell you right now, if you come to my compound after something disastrous happens and you are on a list of prescription medications and you're overweight and got fatty liver and type 2 diabetes, we're probably not going to open the gate for you. I'm sorry. But we want people with skills, and we want people who are at least resilient, if not anti-fragile. I want somebody that if I say, dude, there's no food, we're not going to be able to eat for 5 days. I want somebody that's not just going to, first of all, drop dead out of fear and shock. Like, I've never went more than 4 hours without eating. What are you talking about? Okay? I want somebody that is like 5-day fast. Boom, let's go. You got water, right? Because I can do it if I got water. Yeah, 100%. We're good. Let's go. Okay. The truck's supposed to be here in 5 days. We'll get something to eat then. Or maybe I'll kill something in a day or two. We don't know. Because guess what, guys? That's how human beings spent the majority of their time on this planet. 99.99% of it was lived just like that. And if that don't sound like fun to you, you're probably not prepared. How much time we got left? Okay, questions. And that's a lot. I've covered a lot, and I've probably stepped on a few toes. Yes, sir. Yeah. So is there any such thing as an essential carbohydrate? If I locked Rufus in my barn and never gave him another carbohydrate for the rest of his life, would he get sick, suffer, die, or would he actually get healthier? Think about that. Think about that. I'm talking about, no, does it? Does it? Have you ever heard of this thing called gluconeogenesis? Your liver can make glucose at a moment's notice. When's the last time you had more than 1 gram of carbs, Jack?
I'm on vacation.
Okay, never mind. Sometimes I will go for weeks without eating 1 gram of carb. Like literally I'll eat eggs and ground beef and steak for weeks. And does it seem like my brain's working okay? Okay. So now what that means, honey, I ain't constipated. Trust. No. Okay. Let's talk about that for a second. When you're eating lots of carbohydrates, they're going to be full of fiber, right? Now, let's talk about shit for a minute. What's shit made of? What is shit? Speaking of constipation, what is it? It's waste. So it's things you don't need and can't use. Okay. So the average carnivore, which is what I am, our fecal volume, that's the sexy doctor word for shit. Fecal, okay? Our fecal volume is about 90% less than somebody eating a vegan diet, vegetarian diet, plant-based diet, standard American diet. Why? Why is that? So you're saying that every single thing I eat on a carnivore diet is nutrient dense. It's literally 100% food. There's no waste in it. Huh. Interesting, right? And so now, what the doctor will tell you if you're having trouble with constipation is that you should eat more fiber, right? So let's think about your colon and your butthole as a freeway and an off-ramp, right? So if there was a traffic jam on the freeway, that's constipation, right? So your solution would be to add more cars. Big fluffy cars, that'll make the traffic jam better. No, if any of you guys suffer from Crohn's, irritable bowel, ulcerative colitis, chronic constipation, any of that stuff, you need to go 100% carnivore. It will fix the problem in 1 to 6 months. You literally will poop like a champ, and you'll have something called ghost poops. You know what that is? So you go and literally sit down, in 2 minutes you're done, and you wipe and there's nothing on the paper. And you're like, did I really poop? And you look, yeah, I did, I pooped. But it's just like defecation, that's a fancy word for shitting, becomes effortless when you're eating a diet that's pure nutrition because you're going to absorb it all. And so the only thing a carnivore poops out is maybe 1 or 2% waste that was in there, dead epithelial cells and dead bacterial cells. And so literally it's a 90% reduction in the amount of traffic on the freeway. So you took 90% of the cars away. Is there still a traffic jam? Just a thought. Just a thought. Yes, ma'am.
Can you touch on gut flora?
Yeah, so gut flora, very important. Now, when I've been studying the microbiome for probably 10 years, I've read every book that comes out. I think it's going to be hugely important, hugely powerful. But currently, I'm sorry to say, we don't know shit about shit. We literally, because there for a minute, remember, you want the bacteroides, not the firmicutes, right? You want this kind, not this kind. And so then immediately, what did somebody start selling? This particular kind of shit. Literally, it was shit. Or no, you want this kind of bacteria. Well, guess what? Anybody who tells you you need a specific probiotic for this condition or this, you can literally click the unfollow button because they are misleading you or they're misleading themselves. Now, 20 years from now, when more research is done, the microbiome and tweaking it is going to be hugely powerful. I can't wait. It's going to be a game changer for medicine. But currently, we don't know shit about shit. So, what we've also found with the carnivores, because we like to study ourselves because we're kind of outliers. Like, I only eat meat. Maybe I should send off a poop sample just to see what's up. Well, what we find is that people that eat only meat, not a varied plant-based diet, because that's supposed to encourage, right? We find that carnivores actually have more diversification and a healthier, what we currently think is a healthy microbiome than people definitely eating standard American shit. But even people on a plant-based diet, they have a more funneled microbiome. And so it's almost like your gut bacteria, just like your body, they basically just need you to shut the hell up and eat real food. They don't need you to buy a probiotic. They don't need you to ferment some pickles. They don't need you to do any of that shit. They just need you to shut up and eat real food. And it's almost like, how many times has your heart beat in the last minute? You're not tracking that? Oh, she said something that was golden right there. She said she's not tracking her heart rate. How many times has your heart beat? You're not tracking that? You sloth? She said, I'm just trusting it to do what it needs to do. I opine that golden nugget of wisdom applies to the human body as a whole. So when you remove the offending, slow poison, high carbohydrate, inflammatory poison, and you give that to the neighbor that you don't really like, and then you fill your cupboard and your fridge with proper human food, and then you proceed to eat that and never touch that shit again, I trust my bowels to do just what they need to do. Get it? You see how it makes sense? How many times have you breathed in the last minute? What if a guru said, now look, I know you're breathing 16 times a minute. I know, and that's not bad. But for optimal health, I really need you to breathe 60 times a minute, every minute for the rest of your life. Now you laugh at that, but you understand that there are thousands of well-paid health gurus out there telling you to drink half your body weight in ounces of water a day, and your dumb ass is doing that, thinking that matters. Anybody want to raise their hand that they've been trying to drink more water because somebody told them that even though they're conscious and not in the intensive care unit, that they're somehow dehydrated, right? That's horseshit. Horseshit. That'd be like me, literally, think about it. Is it not exactly the same thing as if I said, honey, you're not breathing. You need to breathe 60 times a minute, every minute. Start, go. You'd be like, okay, dude. But do you see, once you get that concept that she's brilliantly said, you can apply that to pretty much every part of the human body. You don't need a liver cleanse. You know what the ultimate liver cleanse is? Duct tape your mouth. Don't eat. Fast. Literally, anybody want to admit that you spent money on a liver cleanse or a liver detox or a kidney cleanse? Right? It sounded good. It was probably based on fruit juices, which actually, yeah. When he was first starting to think about his health, and that's when they get you. It's when you're motivated, but you're not educated. You're like, I don't know, a liver cleanse sounds good, right? I don't know, it's only $49.95. You just wasted money that you could have been buying bacon and eggs and steak with. You don't need any of that shit. None of that. If you want to cleanse your liver, your body is a self-cleaning oven. Think about it. We've been doing this for over 2 million years. You don't think your body has figured this shit out? You don't think it needs Guru Rufus to say, hey, here's my liver cleanse? Do you really think your body needs that? That's stupid. Not you, my friend. I've wasted money on supplements thinking it mattered. Okay? If you're eating a nutrient-dense diet that contains all four of those things in the proper proportions, do you need any supplements? Now, we're going to add to that getting daily sunlight, because humans have been doing that for over 2.5 million years. Right? Well, does sunlight cause cancer? I got a chapter in my book about that. Think about it. Does that make any sense? That just starting in 1970, the sun was uniquely carcinogenic. Ooh, she said sunscreen causes cancer. I mean, sunscreen hasn't been around for 3 million years, but the sun has. And skin cancer rates really started to jack up in the 70s. Did the sun just pop into the sky in 1977? Come on. Think. Grow the fuck up and think. Low vitamin D. I bet that's important. How do you make vitamin D? Also, how do you get more nitric oxide? You can either eat bacon, which she would be opposed to. Are you anti-sun too? So you're anti-bacon and anti-sun. I mean, should you be here? Just messing with you. Just a question. Other questions? Yes, sir. Yeah. So the question is the difference between natural desiccated thyroid replacement hormone and synthetic. So what's another word for synthetic? Fake? Oh, somebody said fake. Okay, so is Synthroid, levothyroxine, is it actually T4? Huh? No, it says it's T4 out there on the bottle. Huh? Can you get a patent? on a naturally occurring molecule? You're starting to be able to now, yeah. In the agricultural, yeah, that's true. But currently in medicine, could I get a patent on water? No. But now if I added a little weird molecule to it, a little extra element here or there, then could I get a patent on it? Yeah. So levothyroxine is not real T4. It's pseudo sort of T4 that's patented. They get to charge you for it. Okay. So desiccated thyroid replacement like Armor, Nature, IRFA, WPMP, they're actually real T4. And they also contain T3 and T2 and T1 and T0 and calcitonin. Those are all the things your thyroid needs, not just fake T4. So that's why I encourage everybody, if you're on levothyroxine currently, find a healthcare provider who will switch you to a natural desiccated thyroid that actually contains real T4. There's a website called stopthethyroidmadness.com, and there's a list of providers there. Other questions? Yes, sir.
I find sometimes that the explanation that these are the essentials for us, so that therefore that's all you really need. It's the same as the recommended daily allowance for your vitamins.
Yep.
That's what you need to survive. What about supplementing with herbs, spices, mushrooms, things we have had access to over the last couple million years?
Yep.
Will that bring us to a place of thriving?
Excellent question. Okay, so the FDA, the daily recommended intake, that's just to keep you from, does everybody know that's just to keep you from having a deficiency, right? That's in no way saying this is the optimal level. A lot of people think that. That's not what it means. So you're getting just enough vitamin D to not get rickets. You're getting just enough vitamin C to not get scurvy. Okay? So his question is, what about supplements? Shouldn't we do that to get more? And so then we come back to, we know what we need. We pretty much know the amounts we need. If you can't get that from your food, then you probably should supplement. If you can't get enough sun and you can't eat enough vitamin D rich foods, which I have a YouTube video on that lists them, then you should probably supplement with vitamin D3.
Aren't there things that we can get from outside of these areas that will help our bodies thrive?
Excellent question. So are there things other than these that would help? That's a great question. So, but let's think about it from an ancestral perspective. Did our ancestors 100,000 years ago have a GNC? No. They had what they could catch and put in their mouth. They drank river water, stream water, mud puddle water. Yeah, right. And so maybe some plants do serve a medicinal. Yes, maybe. Some fungus may serve a medicinal or an optimization. Maybe. At least that's plausible. But there ain't shit from a chemical factory that's going to optimize. 100%, right? Now, let's talk about phytonutrients. You love phytonutrients. I know you do. Do you know the list of essential phytonutrients? It's because there's not one. Yeah. There's not a single essential phytonutrient. That's all you hear about on the health news. It's beets, the little tiny nubbin root of a beet, it contains this phytochemical called blah, 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 blah. And it has been shown in research to extend your life by 20 years. Every day we see an article like that, right? Okay, that's all bullshit. And here's why. All of that research is epidemiological. Now, if you don't know what that means, just insert the word bullshit instead, okay? What it means is it's based on food frequency questionnaires, which means here's a multiple choice test. You're going to be judging what you think I think about you based on your answers, and I am going to be judging you based on what your answers are. So go ahead and fill that out objectively. Right? Okay? That's what those kind of studies are based on. They do not show causation. They do not show proof. They only can show a possible association. That's it. And you don't have to be an epidemiologist to get this. I'm just telling you there are certain kinds of studies we can do that will show causation. But that study about the little hangy-dangy on the bottom of a beet having this certain, that's 100%. That was epidemiological research. It proves nothing. There is no such thing as an essential phytonutrient. In fact, we should be calling them phytochemicals because that's what they are. And plants usually put them inside of themselves to make you sick if you eat them. That's why they're there. Is that it? I could do this all day.
Okay, I got something to say about this. We have scheduled Dr. Barry over a lunch break on purpose because you're going to keep asking him questions for the next hour, which is totally okay.
100%. Yeah.
But some of you may want to go to lunch. And so let me interject here. And then if you want to keep going, the camera is going to probably close the session online so they can switch things out. You can tell us what you really think, all of that good stuff. First of all, I love it when this guy comes every time. And I'm really thankful to Dr. Barry because I watched him speak for the first time and went home and lost 20 pounds. And I was like, wow, I got energy now. I got more to go, but I'm really like, I had not been cracking that nut and I hit 45 and man, it was like, boom, 20 pounds on, 40 pounds went on. It's amazing how fast that happens at that age. So there's a lot that you can learn from him and I will let you keep going for anybody who wants to stay here. The next session here is at 1:45.
Yep.
At probably 1:30 latest, we need to start doing some AV stuff.
Just kick me out when.
I want to talk about lunch. The pig we processed yesterday is for sale as pulled pork sandwiches. They're almost out, actually. Those are at the tent. There are some wonderful keto-friendly salads that with some bologna salad because she says that's not very approved because you talk about bologna all the time. And she's got a chicken salad, really tasty over there. There's also a booth with, it's like got hummus and some other things there that John, who was just there, is running. There's some salads over at that. And then the gas station where we did parking also has really good sandwiches. It's got a little kitchen in there. He was kind enough to let us park there. So if anybody's feeling inclined to spread the love over at the gas station, those are all lunch options. Ken, I'm going to let you keep going. People, if you want to file out, you can do that too. We'll be back here at 1:45. Let's give him a round of applause and then keep going. Yeah, so you can turn it back up. Ken, you're back on. Ken's not listening to a word I said. Yeah. You can keep going if you want. Okay, they're turning your mic back on. You go for it.
All right, guys. Yes, sir.
Can you speak to testosterone and
Say that again.
can you speak to testosterone and the diet?
Yeah. So a very common malady for men and also for women. Women need testosterone too. If you don't know that, you need to look that up. But as you get older, on average, it looks like testosterone kind of plummets, right? Now, is that after decades of a shitty diet that's causing that? Or is that just an age-related thing that it just goes down? We don't know for sure because all the research has been done on a metabolically ill population. All the research, right? And so maybe if you wean your children off onto a proper human diet, like we did Beckett, who's now 2.5, when he's 70, he may still have a testosterone of 900. We don't know. But in the interim, all of us who are stuck after our decades of a shitty diet, yeah, I'm 100% for bioidentical hormone optimization. I think many of us need that. But what we found in the carnivore community is that women, when they convert from standard American high-carb inflammatory shit diet to a proper human diet, and that can be low-carb, keto, ketovore, carnivore. That's the spectrum. They notice that their testosterone goes up anywhere from 5 to 20 points. Men notice that their testosterone goes up anywhere from 50 to the highest I've ever seen is 300 points. That's a lot. You're like, shit. Oh, okay. So, but that's just from eating mainly fatty meat and eggs with the yolk. And so nobody knows why because it hasn't been studied. We just know that this guy had a testosterone of 250, 240. So after 90 days of just beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, 90 days, eat as much as you want, eat as often as you want. If you want to snack, you can, but you're not going to want to. Eat as many times a day as you want. And after 90 days, you're going to go recheck your testosterone, and it's going to be somewhere between 50 and 300 points higher for free. And if any of you guys have checked into testosterone replacement therapy, it ain't free. Yes, ma'am.
Thoughts on food allergies?
Yep. So food allergies to pork, eggs, and dairy. Now, who kind of suspects that all these food allergies that we have these days, probably 50,000 years ago, there was no such thing. Okay? So what's changed? Why? What do you think's causing that? Yeah, it could be the additives, the colors, the dyes, the flavorings, the artificial crap. But more than likely, it's just the chronically high-carb inflammatory foods that keep your insulin level chronically high, which keeps your immune system chronically pissed off. It can't just calm down and say, okay, is this a threat or not a threat? No, it's not a threat. Don't worry about it. Because pork, there's nothing in pork that humans should be reacting to. Now, is it something the pigs are eating? Maybe. Right? Something they're feeding the chickens? Maybe. But should any human on the planet be allergic to an egg? Like that literally, that's like being allergic to water or being allergic to air. That shouldn't exist. And so either it's their inflammatory diet that has their immune system thoroughly confused and it's reacting to things it shouldn't be reacting to, or it's something in the diet of the pig or the chicken. And that's why for many people with weird immune and autoimmune things, I recommend ruminant meat only. Because ruminants are magical. They literally turn grass and cellulose into the most nutritious human food on the planet. And even people with severe autoimmune problems and allergic to everything, 99.99% of the time they can eat a ruminant meat and it does not affect them at all. It actually calms down their immune system. And many people who are allergic to eggs, if they'll stop eating the grocery store chicken eggs and switch to duck eggs, quail eggs, goose eggs, or just eat the yolk of the grocery store egg, 99.99% of the time they do just fine.
So when they do, like when they're making the antigens, the test,
These things work. They check for the IgG antibody too, right? Okay. People don't realize this, and it's fine if you don't have the nerd life that I have where you just study human physiology all the time. Every time you eat something, every single time you evoke an immune response to that food, even if it's a perfect food. Your immune system, you have more neurons and more lymph tissue around your gut, right? So what do you think it's doing there? It's constantly monitoring, starting at your tonsils, which I hope you still have. It's constantly monitoring your food and saying, hey, what's this? And when it does that, that's a little minor immune response. And if they're like, oh, no, that's beef. We've seen that before. It's fine. Okay. But your IgG bumps up when it goes, hey, what's this? Okay. So food sensitivity testing is utter bullshit. What it means is you've eaten that food recently. That's all it means if your IgG levels are high. And so what foods did they tell you are sensitive to that you're like, dude, I eat that all the time?
I was having real bad reactions to it, but it was gluten. And
it was gluten.
After I went on a food cleanse,
Yeah.
I reintroduced it, got hives, couldn't breathe, it swelled up, all that.
Yeah. What human on the planet is not at least some degree allergic to gluten? We all are. Because it's not an optimization food, it's a starvation food. If you're starving to death, and even if you got gluten sensitivity, at some point you need to eat the wheat or you're going to die. You can live with the shits and you can live with hives and you can live with gut distress, but if you don't eat, you're going to die at some point. And so all grains have molecules in them like gluten and gliadin. People think it's just wheat. No, corn has zein in it. It's same shape molecule. Every grain, every grass seed has an inflammatory molecule in it. And that's why a lot of people, when they go gluten-free, they do get better, 100%. But when they go grain-free, that's the night and day difference. Yes.
So
Yay! I love you.
I work with a lot of cycling women, obviously, in their cycling childbearing years. And I've noticed a problem come up with women in their cycling years. I'm curious if you have found a solution to this. After they have been in a ketogenic state for quite some time, in that gluconeogenesis, the level of cortisol that their bodies have had to maintain to stay in that state really starts to deplete their minerals. And you start seeing a lot of mineral depletion symptoms after maybe a year. Some women it's 2 years, some as many as 5, but like they start feeling better right away doing carnivore or keto kind of lifestyle, but it doesn't last.
Yeah.
So what do you have to say to that?
Well, I haven't seen that at all. I know carnivore women, keto women who've been doing it for 20, 25 years. Now, the people who have trouble may fall off and not message me. That may be, I don't know. But there's no, what I try to do is think of how does that work physiologically? Always go back to the physiology, like what pathway, how does that work? And what we see when we monitor serum cortisols, especially in women, when they change from a standard American diet or even a whole food plant-based diet to a real whole food, one ingredient keto diet that's heavy in fatty meat and eggs with the yolk, their cortisol levels trend down back to normal. That's what I haven't seen an example of where it actually goes up.
Well, and I've seen that too with women who still maintain fruit and root vegetables.
No, I don't doubt that at all.
Because that like keeps them from having to be in a high rate of gluconeogenesis.
So they're really not in ketosis if they're eating those things. So they're not eating a ketogenic diet.
Well,
Well, during the night when they're not eating, they may be in ketosis. But as soon as they eat, they're out. Yeah. And this comes to the question a lot of people have: is it safe and is it optimal to be in ketosis all the time? Well, then now we say, okay, let's talk about our ancestors. 100,000 years ago, you live in Norway, okay? And you're a cycling woman, and it's August. What are you going to eat for the next 6 months? You're going to eat fatty meat, whale blubber, seal blubber, caribou, reindeer. Are there any vegetables? Are there any berries, any plant, any green thing at all in Norway? After all, no, there's none. And your family's lived there for 80,000 years. And yet somehow the women were able to cycle enough that they kept reproducing because here you are. And every single one of you guys need to understand your success rate is 100%. You are very successful. You are the successful reproduction from literally back before we were human. Every single grandparent that you had up until you successfully reproduced. And that's another very powerful argument. A lot of people have never thought of that before. Like there hasn't been a single couple in your past that failed to reproduce. If there was a single couple like that, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't exist. That's how successful you are. Literally for millions of years, you are nothing. You are success personified, right? And so then you think, well, how's that? So, but now we have to carb cycle, but they didn't. Or we have to have carbs, or our cortisol gets too high, messes up our cycle. How are we not extinct if that's true?
I do think dehydration, preservation of some foods was a factor.
Eventually, yes. Yeah. Starting about 15,000 years ago, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I also don't see traditional foods being completely carbohydrate free anywhere.
Traditional foods starting about 13,000 years ago and forward.
So
yeah.
How much have we adapted as a species? And that's a long time.
That's a classic misunderstanding. In anthropological time, 12,000 years is literally the blink of an eye. There is no room in 12,000 years to evolve. The two things that we've been able to do in 12,000 years is about 25% of the human population has been able to develop a lactase gene defect that allows us to be lactose tolerant as adults. 75% of the people in the world don't have that defect. But about 25% of us over the last 8 or 9,000 years, we've been able to maximize on that. And so now 25% of the human population can digest lactase as an adult. That's one of them. The other is amylase to break down starch. We've actually upregulated that in the last 8 or 9,000 years so that we can start breaking down starch in our mouth. Whereas other carnivores don't do that at all. That's literally the extent of the evolution that's happened over the last 12,000 years. And to get any degree of meaningful evolution, you have to be talking about hundreds of thousands of years, or you're not going to get any of that.
Okay, so my next question then is what about the mineral depletion symptoms of vaccine? Like, is there a balance?
Are they eating liver?
Most of them, yeah.
Good. So if they're developing a mineral deficiency and they're eating liver routinely, then they've got some kind of genetic defect. They need to see a geneticist or something, because that literally the vitamins and minerals in liver are almost as close to 100% bioavailable and absorbable. So what do you think? What's happening to the minerals that they're eating? What do you think? They're just disappearing? Or
I think they're burning through them too quickly.
They're burning the minerals.
I think they're using them up too fast.
Because our body recycles minerals, right? We don't burn them for fuel, and we don't excrete them unless we have a surplus. We keep those, and the kidneys pull those back out.
Well, then how do you explain depletion?
Well, I don't see depletion. You said you did, but I every time I check that, I see repletion is what I see.
But like depletion just in general, like people who are mineral depleted, how do they get mineral depleted?
By eating a standard American diet.
No. No, I'm doing.
This is what's going to migrate your minerals in and out of your
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they're keto, but they're not, maybe they're not keto. Like, are they getting enough fat?
That's my suspicion. They're just not keto. Yeah. Yeah. And Yep. Yeah. And keto's becoming very popular, right? Slim Fast has got keto shakes. There's keto bread. Yeah, right. And so anytime something becomes popular, the big corporations are going to cash in on that, right? I wouldn't be surprised if we don't have keto toilet paper soon. It's keto, right? So the vast majority of people who think they're doing keto, they're not really doing keto. They're doing a lot of these products, and and then there's also a couple of gurus on YouTube that say that keto is eating 7 to 10 cups of salad a day. And that's total horseshit. There's no way you can be in meaningful ketosis or be getting the vitamins and minerals you need if you're eating 7 to 10 cups of salad a day. You literally are going to be mineral deficient if you're eating that many plants a day. And that's every time I dig into a case like this, that I find they're either eating all the keto cakes and cookies and pies and keto chow shakes, or they're eating a big ass salad 2 or 3 times a day, and that's locking up all their minerals and keeping them from absorbing them. And so if you look at the nutrition printout of what they're actually eating, it's mineral rich. But then if you look at the minerals they're absorbing, they're not. They're shitting them out. And that's probably, if you really dig into their diet specifically, you'll find one of those two things is true almost every time.
Give me a mic.
Okay, cool.
No, and the other thing is, I do get your point that our ancestors probably ate some carbohydrates, but when and for how long and what duration, right? So if you think, I think about growing up in the mountains, and when blackberries came around, I ate the shit out of some blackberries for 2 weeks, right? Wild strawberries, we ate those for a week, and there was a lot less of them, and they're tiny. Right. So I do think there's probably a time in our carbohydrate cycling. When he says that and I say that, I think we mean different things, because he's talking about the general term and I'm talking about ancestral history.
Yeah. Me and Jack believe you should carb cycle once a year.
Yes. That's what I'm saying,
yeah.
right?
And that's what our people did. Yeah.
And what does that biochemically do to us? It puts fat on, and it puts fat on really, 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 really good. And this is the conspiracy that's not a conspiracy. If I want to make you eat, I put fat and sugar together, and you will eat the shit out of it. And once I get, even if you're Ken, if I trick his ass and I get him to eat, these are keto nubs.
Add a little salt. Add a little salt
to that.
That's it.
And it's half fat, half sugar. About 3 days later, he's like, "You got any more of them things? Yep. You got any more of them things? You're gonna get the
100%.
shit out of it." But if it goes away, so in that situation, I'm not a doctor, I'm not Ken, I don't know, but maybe that person would benefit from a couple handfuls of blackberries 2 weeks out of the year with some really fatty salmon at the same time. But that would be it. And then you have to have the discipline to understand that you have to eat that in mimic of what our ancestors did, because our ancestors did not carb cycle the way that the term is used in, running and fitness and all the shit. They couldn't have done it. It's not possible. And I would challenge anybody, let's go out in these woods right now, find me some carb, other than fig trees that John waters and takes care of, which, by the way, have no figs you can eat on them right now. Go find me carbohydrates in those woods right now.
Yep.
And you can't. But if we come here in the spring, right, or there's some blackberries right over there, they're red and bitter as shit. They will be ripe about 2 weeks from now, and that's all you have. And I think if you're going to do that, then that's the duration we're talking about. We're talking about very short duration. It should be from as close to wild sources as we could get, because those blackberries over there, they're not going to be as big as our finger, right? That's not going to happen. Like, I don't know, other than the tropics.
So it's very.
I don't know where you could get.
Well, it's a very popular belief that in the tropics, between Cancer and Capricorn, around the equator, that fruit just grows year round, and that is not true whatsoever. I used to say that a few years back. I said it on a Facebook Live 7 years ago, and a guy messaged me. He's like, "Hey, Bubba, you need to do a little more research, because the fruit at the equator is also seasonal. There's not just mango hanging and pineapples.
Seasons.
It's just, they have two seasons, and that's it. And that's when they carb cycle twice a year for a week here and a week here, and that's it. And so it is true that any mammal, when you put it in a repetitive condition, it's probably going to evolve somehow to maximize that. And we know for sure that humanity maximized the ability to store fat real damn efficiently when the berries and the fruit are ripe. Just like the bear does, right? Just like any mammal out in the woods, when the buckberries and the huckleberries, when they're ripe, they eat the shit out of them, and they try their damnedest to gain 5 or 10 pounds of pure fat. We don't need to do that, right? Because there is no famine currently. There's always food at the 7-Eleven or the grocery store. So we don't need to do that to put on 5 or 10 pounds of fat. But our ancestors 100,000 years ago, 100%, when the fruit was ripe, you gorged on it, just like bears do. You tried to gain 20 pounds of pure fat so that your ass didn't starve to death during the winter. Make sense?
And that's what I was asking.
And so it is possible that we evolved to also use that for other things besides just storing fat. That is possible, but nobody's shown that to be the case yet. But if anything, and so would I be shocked to find some research that actually the female menstrual cycle is better and more productive and more procreative if they have access to more carbs? That wouldn't surprise me a bit, because you guys are just difficult anyway.
Yeah. And I'm pure speculating here, but without, like, if you have a woman and she's staying really lean all the time,
that's bad,
right? Like, there should be a fluctuation.
Yep.
Because that's 100%. What was natural that we would put on this weight. Yep. So then if you're going to stay lean, then maybe you do need to be supplementing vitamin D. And if you're supplementing D, you need to be supplementing K2.
Yep.
You have to do both.
Yep.
Unless you take your K2 levels and they're good and it's only your D3 that's deficient. I would still, like, K2 won't fucking hurt you. You can take as much of it as you want. So, I would go to there first before I said, okay, you need to start cycling freaking hoagie rolls or something.
And a big problem currently is our false belief in what the ideal female human should look like, right? A healthy female human should be 15 to 25% body fat. A human healthy male should be 10 to 20%. Okay? Now, if you're more than that, you're unhealthy. If you're less than that, you're unhealthy in a different way. But that's why female bodybuilders, female fitness, they'll stop having periods when they get under 15-ish, and there's a range, but under 15%-ish body fat, they'll stop having periods. Now, does anybody think not having a period is probably healthy? No. So these fitness models who literally you can see their vasculature in their abdominal muscles, right? You see the veins. Is that a picture of health? No. Maybe a picture of fitness, but that's not optimal health. And that's what I'm going for. I want you to be the healthiest human you can be. You need, if you're a female, 15 to 25% body fat. And if you're above that, you need to work on that. If you're below that, you need to go and eat some fruit and put on some body fat. Yeah. Short term. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that. I love how you're thinking, by the way. Thank you. Oh, yes.
Yeah, so can you speak to like regular keto versus high fat keto?
Yep.
And the carnivore in terms of being able to have a little bit of vegetables.
Yep.
Here and there.
Yep.
And I guess dairy is better.
So a carnivore diet with a little bit of vegetable, that's not a carnivore diet. That's a keto diet, right? A keto diet, what was your first part of your question? Yeah, okay. So a ketogenic diet by definition is a high fat diet. Now there are higher fat versions. So everybody in here needs to be eating at least 1-to-1 fat to protein by grams of food, not by macros, but by ounces of food, 1-to-1 fat to protein. Some people need 2-to-1. Some people, if they're using it therapeutically, like to control seizures or autoimmune or other things, they need a 3-to-1 or even a 4-to-1 fat to protein ratio. So they're literally cooking their 70-30 ground beef in bacon grease and then putting butter on top of it. And that's their keto. And that's super high fat keto. And some people need that. Not everybody does, but every human, I think, needs at least a 1-to-1 fat to protein ratio.
And do the fats need to be kept low temperature?
Some fats do. So all of the animal fats, there might be an exception, you may know, but most of the animal fats, you can cook them up to 320.
Olives and we squeeze this oil out of them. That's a relatively new thing that we would have the time and ability and the
only for about
luxury
6,000 years
to
that we've been doing
extract that, right? So normally we
hence the 15,000 year cutoff, right? So many things we've only been doing for the last few thousand years. How long have we been drinking coffee? 4,000 years probably. There's evidence 4,000 or 5,000 years. That's not ancestrally appropriate. I freaking love coffee. As soon as I get done here, I'm going to go drink some more. Yeah, it's not ancestrally appropriate, okay? For some people, it raises their triglycerides. For some people, it causes significant gut inflammation. Even with the mold-free coffee, don't come at me. I'm ready for you. Even the real pristine coffee causes inflammation, and in some few people, it even raises their blood sugar. Okay? It's not. Alcohol, 4,000 or 5,000 years. Drinking liquid dairy, 8,000 years max. Okay? Cheese, 6,000 to 7,000 years. Yogurt, 6,000 to 7,000 years. Like all this stuff we think we've been doing forever. No. The only thing we've been doing forever is breathing air, drinking water, and killing shit and eating it. That's literally the only three things that we've been doing consistently on a daily basis for our entire existence as a family on this planet. Those three things. Everything else is something that we had to add later on down the road. Anthropologists love to talk about the agricultural revolution, like it was a big damn discovery and it was a great boon and benefit to humanity. We adopted agriculture because it was either that or starve to death. Because of whatever happened that destroyed the megafauna, there wasn't enough food. And so we had to figure out how do we go get more food? And there was that one crazy chick that lived out on the edge of the village who grew plants and collected the seeds. And they're like, well, I mean, maybe she maybe let's try that. And so we started learning how to plant stuff, and then agriculture sprang up, making possible, by the way, you understand if we still lived in a hunter-gatherer situation, which I don't condone and I don't want. I love modern society, but there'd be no such thing as big pharma and big food, right? They wouldn't exist, literally would not exist if we were still in our pristine environment. Just saying.
Well, so if you look at ancient civilizations in North America after the fall of the megafauna, which was at the end of, from the end of the Younger Dryas forward, after the glaciers retreated, all of our civilizations, until we started basically creating like city-state monarchies, because when we first settled this, I say, Europeans first settled this area, we think of like the Indians were out living on the buffalo and what have you. That was after we destroyed them with our diseases. There was agriculture here, and they had all the problems that we did. But leading up to that, all the settlements and civilizations were either on the coasts or they were on the banks of rivers.
Yep.
Which makes sense because without water, you die.
That's right.
Well, what did they eat? Well, we found these huge mounds, and they're like, well, it must have been a pharaoh like Pharaoh Ken Berry, and they buried his ass in there. And maybe they
under
did.
This huge mound of shells.
Fucking shells, right? Because, okay, so now if I've got an oyster or a clam, I have this incredibly high-fat, high-nutrient dense superfood, and it doesn't run away. I just go and pick it up. And, hey, look, does this good look like? And the first, you eat it.
Yeah, right. That looks like boogers. You eat it. Yeah.
Somebody ate it and went, hey, this isn't half bad.
And didn't die.
And they threw that shit in the fire, and it looked a little bit less boogerish.
Yep.
And so they lived huge amounts on these shellfish or the migrations of the bison, which was the one ruminant megafauna that survived this period. All the rest of our remaining megafauna, they're not ruminants, they're browsers. Deer I love them, but deer are browsers. Elk are browsers. They don't go out and live in the middle of the field. They live off of the edge system.
But they still ruminate.
They still
ruminate.
To a degree, not to the level of a bison. A bison actually can live on grass.
That's right.
An elk can't live on grass alone.
Exactly.
And
I didn't actually.
We probably wouldn't have made it. If the bison didn't make it, we probably wouldn't have made it.
That's on this continent. Yes, 100% true. 100%. But Jack's right. The archaeologists literally found shell mounds as high as his tent. Yeah. And at first they were trying to say, well, maybe it's a religious, like a pyramid or something. And it's like, no, that's just their damn shell pile. Like, when you're in college and you had your beer can collection, that was their shell pile. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Yes. So grain finished beef versus grass-fed beef. Is there a huge difference? Does it matter? Is one healthier than the other? Yeah? Okay. There is a difference. So first of all, let's talk about all beef in the United States that you can buy at the grocery market. Even the cheapest beef at the convenience store. They shouldn't even sell beef, right? Like literally the cheapest beef you can find grazed on grass for 70 or 80% of its life. How many people did not know that? Even the cheapest ass, that 10-pound stick, it looks like a stick of bologna beef. 70 to 80% of their life, they were on grass because it's too cost prohibitive to feed them in a feedlot their whole life. So you turn them out to pasture until they're 15 months old. Then you bring them into the feedlot their last 3 months and you gorge them on grains to put fat in the meat. That's how that's done. So even the cheapest beef is grass-fed for 80% of its life. So grass-finished beef would be left out, and they're going to have to graze for longer. So they're probably not 18 months old. They're maybe 24, 36 months old when they're harvested because it takes longer to fatten them up on grass. You can do it, but it takes longer, not cost-effective, therefore big food. No. Bring them into the feedlot. Now, the omega-3 to omega-6 profile is about 3% different. Grass-finished is better. It is better. It has more phytonutrients in it. Yeah, beef has phytonutrients. People don't realize that. I'm reading a paper about it right now. It has a higher degree of phytonutrients. It has more omega-3 fatty acids. Has a better fatty acid profile. It is about 3 to 5% healthier. Now, what's the difference in cost? 5 minutes. Grass finish is typically anywhere from $1 a pound more to $20 a pound more. So it depends on your financial situation. If you can afford grass finished, buy it. But if you're like, shit, dude, I'll be able to buy 2 ounces of beef. That's all I can afford. You're still getting an amazing amount of the nutrients from the cheapest beef you can buy. People want to badmouth bologna and Spam and potted meat. And they're like, oh, you don't know what's in there. You're right, you don't. And you may not want to know, but I do. And so I actually looked into it. Guess what? They take all the leftover meat, right? The scrapings and scraps, but they also put organ meats in there. That's what the average person doesn't want to know. It's like there's probably peckers and noses in there. Remember, what movie is that from? Sling Blade, that's right. There probably is peckers and noses and kidneys and hearts, and there ain't no damn telling what's in there, ears and tongues. But do you understand that kind of makes bologna a superfood? And hot dogs. Think about it. It literally has got the stuff in it I was telling you to eat earlier. So in my house, Beckett eats bologna and hot dogs. We eat that shit all the time. Now, does it have some preservatives and some colors and this? And yeah, it's got a little of that. Is it perfect? No. But I'm fine with it. And so if money's an issue at your house, eat the best meat you can afford.
No, he's not in trouble. That's your.
Am I done?
Yeah.
I'm done.
You
Okay.
can still talk to him.
Thank you so much, guys. I'll be around.
Whoa. Yeah. Turn your blind eye. Whoa. Turn your blind eye. Turn your blind eye. Whoa. Turn your blind eye. Turn your blind eye. Walk on by. Don't wanna know why the mama cries. So turn your blind eye. Walk on by. Don't wanna know how them babies die. To turn your blind eye. Turn your blind eye. Turn your blind Turn your blind eye. Turn your blind eye. You might see we only wanna live here peacefully and be free. Like somebody, like everybody. Free to be in our community with no bigotry coming down on me. And I love these beautiful families. Yeah, we wanna be free. Is that so hard to see? Yeah, we wanna be free. Is that so hard to see? Turn your blind eye. Whoa, turn your blind eye. Turn your blind eye. Whoa, turn your blind eye. Turn your blind eye. Walk on by. Don't wanna know about our history. Turn your blind eye. Walk on by. Don't wanna see all them injuries. Turn your blind eye. 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 You might see we wanna do it just be free eternally with sovereignty, integrity, and autonomy. Constitutionally, unalienably. Is that so hard to conceive in the land of the free? Is that too hard to believe? Yeah, we wanna be free. Is that so hard to see? Yeah, we wanna be free. Is that so hard to see? Nobody seems to care to share the despair going on around here. As another baby disappears into the atmosphere, it's clear. Nobody wanna hear that, rather leer and cheer and sneer, living in fear. Yeah, they're living in fear of the other, fear of the mother, fear of the sister, yeah, fear of the brother, yeah, fear of the mother, fear of the other, fear of the father, yeah, fear of the brother, fear of the mother, fear of the other, fear of the baby, yeah, fear of the brother, yeah, fear of the mother, fear of the other, fear of the neighbor, yeah, fear of the brother. Turn your blind eye, whoa, turn your blind eye, turn your blind eye, turn your blind eye, turn your blind eye. You might see all we wanna do is live peacefully and be free. Like with somebody, is that so hard to see? That we wanna be free, yeah.